Good morning, Agency Director Dr. Strauss, and other esteemed members of the agency's executive leadership team. My name is Brooke Noland, and I am representing the agency's cyber operations team, which is dedicated to establishing and maintaining the secure communications during the Five Eyes Summit. This briefing is also available in hard copy format for review and has been provided to agency's officials via separate correspondence. At the height of the Five Eyes Summit, the United States government agency's Human Resource Department head alerted the United States government cyber operations team regarding a potential compromise of the agency's network. The Human Resource Department head further stated that an employee within the HR department was unable to access any files on his workstation, and the other users could not open any shared documents stored on the victim's machine. The Human Resource Department head indicated that the activity seemed to be indicative of a ransomware attack against the agency. Further analysis identified that the attack was consistent with the Reviton ransom attack. The Reviton ransom attack pretends to be a warning from a country's law enforcement agency. It locks you out of your PC and threatens criminal proceedings within 48 hours based on very serious offenses. The message further informs that you can avoid prosecution by paying a fine to the attackers via Bitcoin. At the time of the incident, agency officials believe that a single threat actor or a group is responsible, but still remains unidentified. The agency's Chief Information Security Officer has directed the cyber operations team to identify how the attackers were able to infiltrate the system and plant the malware. Furthermore, the team has been directed to conduct an analysis of current protections and potential mitigations to respond to and prevent future attacks. The recent Reviton ransomware at the Five Eyes Summit has raised concerns and a heightened awareness around the United States government's cyber operations while operating abroad at the summit. The cyber operations team, representing the United States, has conducted incident response activities and investigative analysis of the ransomware to thwart future attacks against the agency's resources. This type of high-profile cyber attack can have a crippling effect on trusted software supply chain by revealing weak points within the demilitarized zone and other potential attack surfaces. The cyber operations team has been tasked with reviewing software currently residing on the network, reviewing the software supply chain, and ensuring the software development process has been implemented appropriately to ensure security controls are effective to control the system during its life cycle. The purpose of this briefing is to provide an overview of both cyber operations and risk management solutions related to key software assurance principles and supply chain risks. Software assurance seeks to reduce or remove vulnerabilities within a software stack. According to the United States Department of Homeland Security, software assurance is the level of confidence that software functions as intended and is free of vulnerabilities, either intentionally or unintentionally designed or inserted as part of the software throughout its life cycle. Specialized software and the ability to securely access it from a growing range of devices highlights the need to ensure software can operate without being affected by malicious code or inappropriately accessed. Software assurance activities ideally should be designed to continually assess and monitor for risk exposure. Software vulnerabilities often are the result of weak system infrastructure. This could mean misconfigurations of services, applications running in the environment, or operational issues. The risk management framework helps minimize defects in the software development lifecycle and is the standard for software development within the federal government. The United States government has placed a due focus on the ever-changing needs of technological advancements and associated software assurance principles. In 2011, the National Defense Authorization Act, or NDAA, has served as the first cybersecurity law to require the United States Department of Defense to develop a strategy for ensuring security of software and applications. The United States Office of Management and Budget, or OMB, Circular Alpha TAC 130, has directed the federal government to apply a consistent lifecycle approach for the management of risk to protect the nation's critical infrastructure. The NIST Risk Management Framework serves as the foundation for risk determinations and assessment activities across the federal government. Risk assessments include an analysis of known vulnerabilities while considering mitigations provided by implementing security controls. The Risk Management Framework, developed by the National Institutes of Standards and Technology, aims to create a cost-effective security control for an entire system. Furthermore, The risk management framework is a mechanism to manage operational risk or the risk associated with operating a system within an organization. Viewed in its entirety, the risk management framework provides a process to integrate security and risk management into the secure development lifecycle. The risk management framework creates a security model for federal applications. The security model is a set of formal specifications for a covered application, its design, security, and creates a risk assessment for the code. A security model allows the IT organization to understand basic operations in an effort to eliminate uncertainties in hardware-software against a security baseline. Developers often cite a security model as helping define expected software behavior, find errors in the design, reveal flawed decisions, verify a minimally acceptable standard, resolve conflicts in the code, and analyze how the application security measures affect the user experience. The United States government utilizes 7 industry best practice concepts to promote delivering a more secure software. Evaluate. This step focuses on conducting an evaluation of current state of software security and develop a plan for continuously maintaining or improving throughout the software's lifecycle. Specify. At this step, risks and threats are specified so vulnerabilities can be eliminated before the software is deployed. Review. The review of code is conducted to identify any security vulnerabilities that may be introduced during development. Test. This step ensures the code is tested and verified against vulnerabilities. Prevent. At this step, security measures are incorporated to prevent applications with known vulnerabilities from being released into production. Measure. Activities at this step aim to ensure that security can be measured against success criteria and continuously evaluated and improved throughout all phases of the software development lifecycle. Educate. Finally, this step places a focus on ensuring stakeholders remain educated about the security best practices to ensure the security remains well known and implemented throughout the software development lifecycle. The software development lifecycle, or SDLC, involves several distinct stages, including planning, design, building, testing, and deployment. The current evaluation of software models for use across the United States government has historically been driven under the waterfall methodology. The waterfall model offers a linear, phased approach where each phase must be completed to advance to the next. This model allows for clearly defined outcomes and a single-step focus. The frequent documentation of each step allows for better security and understanding of the application. However, the evolution of technology and the increasing security concerns tied to software development introduces concerns regarding the effectiveness of the waterfall model in order to meet software assurance needs. Based on the rigid approach of the linear waterfall model, security weaknesses that are identified during development cannot quickly be remediated or worked in parallel. Under the waterfall model, any identified security concerns cannot be mitigated until the last phase or the maintenance phase. Since each phase must be completed to advance to the next, the waterfall model does not allow flexibility or scalability in ensuring that software assurance can meet the 7 concepts of secure software delivery. Based on the inefficiencies of the waterfall model, the United States government has shifted focus and recommends the use of a hybrid software methodology for secure software development, specifically the spiral model. Under this model, the entire process of development is divided into 4 stages, which keep on repeating until the entire project is completed. The 4 stages of the spiral model are: determining objectives. This is the initial stage where all requirements are collected, objectives are defined, and constraints are evaluated. This is the first and foremost stage of each repetitive cycle. Evaluating risks. Risks that can hinder the success of projects are identified and strategies are formed to mitigate or remediate entirely. Upon completion of this stage, prototypes are typically completed. Developing. All the necessary development using the selected technology and solutions are performed at this stage. Each iteration, a new and better version of the application is created. Planning. The last stage of the spiral. The developed project is further evaluated and new plans are formulated for the next phase. The United States Cyber Operations Team utilizes the spiral model due to its highly flexible nature for long-term and complex projects. The model incorporates risk analysis at all phases of the SDLC, allowing better security monitoring and patching of dependent microservices. The feedback loop associated with the methodology allows for better communication between developers and end users, which promotes increased visibility and awareness throughout each stage of the SDLC. The spiral model allows for strong maturity to standardize development and ensure consistency. Regardless of the software development model chosen, a strong software assurance maturity model will assist with the development and implementation of a security posture within all applications it creates. The Capability Maturity Model, or CMM, is a certificate process comprised of 5 levels that enable the development of secure software. Every organization starts at level 1, or initial, before they have established a formalized methodology. At level 2, managed, the organization is beginning to provide training and a working environment needed to begin a secured software development lifecycle. At level 3, defined, the organization has divided its development teams into working groups, allowing for the development of best practices. At level 4, quantitatively managed, the organization has established processes that are proven to result in secure code. The final level, level 5, or optimizing, means the organization has optimized its processes and has proven its ability to adapt to new frameworks. The organization is still able to monitor its development cycles, audit changes to code, and regularly improve its processes. The recent Reviton ransomware activities targeting the United States and allied partners at the Five Eyes Summit provide further indications surrounding software vulnerability risks for the United States government. Despite the best practices identified and implemented within the secure communications baseline to include enhanced security controls like multi-factor authentication, the analysis of the Reviton ransomware incident highlighted additional areas of vulnerabilities for consideration. The evaluation of the incident indicate that the secure communications baseline should be reevaluated. A continuous monitoring strategy for the identification and mitigation of identified software vulnerabilities should be defined and implemented. Vulnerabilities should not only be assessed and managed at the operating system and network levels, but also at the application layer as well. Prior to the Reviton attack, the Intrusion Detection System, or IDS, was primarily configured to identify denial of service malicious activity. The rule-based IDS requires the configuration of specific rules within the agency's IDS. Prior to the ransomware attack, the rules did not take into account specific logic to identify potential malicious activity tied to this type of attack in real time. Previous recommendations to implement a host-based intrusion detection system, or HIDS, should also be considered to ensure host-based protections for threat-based monitoring and detection. During the attack, it was identified that the Secure Communications Network did not have sufficient disaster recovery plan in place in order to timely respond and recover the mission-essential operations in the event of an incident. The Reviton attack also leveraged phishing to exploit the human element. The attack was largely successful due to human-related error as a result of either negligence or a lack of general security knowledge. Additional vulnerabilities stem from vulnerabilities introduced to the United States government supply chain. According to the Department of Homeland Security, the supply chain introduced risks to American society that relies on the federal government for essential information and services. The United States government supply chain is a globally distributed, interconnected set of organizations, people, processes, products, and services that form the building blocks of information technology systems. It extends across the full system lifecycle of an information technology system, including the research and development, design, development, acquisition, delivery, integration, operations, and disposal or retirement. Risks to federal information systems are rapidly increasing based on intentional or unintentional supply chain compromises. These may result from mismanagement of highly sophisticated and complicated programs and systems. The sheer scale and complexity of the distributed global supply chain also contributes to compromises in the supply chain. In this environment, the United States government often struggles to establish consistent and comprehensive management for purchasing, delivering, integrating, and installing the hardware and software products and services it procures. Failure to manage the supply chain properly increases the probability of exploitation through counterfeit materials, malicious software, or untrustworthy products. Supply chain risk management provides the process for managing supply chain risks. A successful supply chain risk management plan encompasses many disciplines and requires participation from subject matter experts in acquisition, counterintelligence, information assurance, logistics, program offices, analysis, security, and other relevant functions. Supply chain risk management continues to be a focal point for United States federal agencies to ensure that the goods and services provided to the federal government, specifically software components, are continuously evaluated and mitigated to prevent against risks to the nation's critical infrastructure or mission operations. Supply chain risk management is a multi-tiered and multidisciplinary approach that incorporates a mix of applicable sources, including statutes, regulations, directives, and NIST guidelines and presidential directives, to provide a robust supply chain risk management plan for the United States government. The Federal Acquisition Regulation, or FAR, continues to drive mandated requirements for federal contractors to ensure that risks within the supply chain are mitigated. FAR compliance requires federal contractors to meet specific outline requirements within business practices. Specifically, FAR places and implements regulatory framework for the role of contractors in security as federal agencies outsource various information technology functions to reduce agency costs. The final FAR rule, published by the Department of Defense, NASA, and the General Services Administration in 2016, created a new contract clause to deal exclusively with cybersecurity. The FAR 52.204-21 regulation applies to covered contractor information systems that process, store, or transmit what is considered federal contract information. The FAR cybersecurity clause imposes regulatory guidance for contractors to meet a set of 15 basic security controls that have been identified to meet minimum safeguarding measures. Non-compliance with the FAR federal regulation, to include inability to meet the basic security requirements, may result in a contractor from being awarded a contractor and doing business with the federal government. Based on the identification and the analysis of the Reviton ransom attack and existing vulnerabilities, the United States Government Cyber Operations Team provides the following recommendations for mitigation. To increase the scope of the Vulnerability Management Program, continue to evaluate the secure communications network systems and include applications to ensure the timely identification of vulnerability. Vulnerability management should include the patching or application of additional compensating controls to mitigate identified vulnerabilities. While the costs are widely unknown, they are mainly associated with the costs in business operations if security updates and configurations cause a disruption in critical systems and services. The time frame of response and recovery from the Reviton ransom attack could have been significantly reduced if the agency had readily available system backups. The team recommends the implementation of a disaster recovery solution for the secure communications network. Since the Five Eyes Summit is a temporary operation, the implementation of a full hot site, warm site, or even cold site is not practical or cost effective. Instead, the disaster recovery solution should include a strategy for the backup and recovery of critical systems which are identified in the business impact analysis. Based on the recent attacks and sensitivity of operations at the summit, the disaster recovery plan should encompass daily backups of the identified systems to ensure timely response and recovery. The costs associated with the solution are tied to ensuring the team can implement the additional storage with the appropriate hardening measures at the summit to securely store the backups of systems and data. The costs associated with implementation far outweigh the costs associated with the potential widespread ransomware attack. The successful phishing attack and related lacking employee security awareness assisted in the successful execution of the Reviton ransomware. The team recommends that role-based security training is conducted for all United States government delegates while operating at the summit. The training should ensure that it encompasses security best practices and acceptable use while operating on the secure communications network at the summit. The training should also encompass potential indicators of malicious activity and processes for delegates to follow in the event of suspected malicious activity. While the costs are mainly soft costs, they are tied to development and the delivery of training. The increasing risks and reliance on supply chain for software assurance requires the agency to further evaluate their supply chain risk management within its contracts. The team recommends a review of agency contracts to ensure that the contractual language and flow-down requirements mandate compliance with the federal acquisition regulations and software assurance delivery. Additionally, there is recommendation to ensure that all acquisition programs submit a program protection plan, which encompasses software assurance and countermeasures during the development process, the overall operating system, and the overall operating environment. The most recent Reviton ransom attack, targeting the agency's critical systems and files, was successful in creating disruption in mission-essential operations at the Five Eyes Summit. Analysis of the Reviton attack have provided further guidance to United States delegates to review its current cyber operations and risk management posture as it relates to the software development lifecycle, business continuity, and supply chain risks. Specifically, the known weaknesses associated with software development and the mitigations to prevent vulnerabilities from being introduced through the supply chain. At the height of Summit operations, the United States Cyber Operations Team remains committed to providing real-time offensive and defensive cyber measures. The attribution of the latest attack remains unknown. However, the team remains vigilant and is placing a due focus on ensuring the continuity of business operations. At this time, the team would like to provide an opportunity to address any questions or concerns that may have arose during this briefing. Thank you.